The following program contains adult language, poor taste in jokes, racial slurs, political slurs, slants, and all sorts of things that, if you are sensitive and have a delicate constitution, you should probably go watch Teletubbies. You were warned.
Hey kids, welcome back to Roto Talk.
Hey kids, welcome back. Happy New Year again. It is New Year Day, January, what is that, 1st. I have tried to shoot this video 4 times, and every time, I came out here yesterday and the smoking hot wife's like, let's take down the Christmas decorations. I'm done. Okay, fine. And then all the Christmas presents start, in the sense of, I have 2 daughters and they get crafts and crap.
How do you write women so well?
I think of a man, and I take away reason and accountability.
So I hear yelling and screaming, oh, come help us, there's glue everywhere, whatever. So what we're going to do is the final chapter of the Super Sport, and I have it covered up in this ugly-ass, nasty towel, all right? So we're going to do the radio box. That's all that's left. I did go ahead and I painted it. Not the best paint job I ever did, but it was, in my defense, 30 degrees out. It was difficult to do, and I put all the hardware on, ran the lines and everything else. We'll go over that. But today, we're going to focus on the radio box and the direct throttle, and then that's really going to basically be it. It is supposed to be, it's Sunday night. Is it Sunday? Or is it Monday? No, it's Sunday. It's supposed to be 62 on Tuesday.
You've got to ask yourself a question. Do I feel lucky?
If the ice is gone and I'm feeling good about life, we might test this boat. We shall see. So, without further ado. All right. Look at that. Beautiful towel. All right. So here is our channel build Super Sport. Okay? Not too bad. Now, what I did is I kept it pretty simple on the decals. Nothing fancy. My 3D printed windshield. If anybody's building one of these and they want one of these windshields, let me know. I'll either email you the files, or I'll put it on Thingiverse, whatever. So radio box is still empty. That's what we're doing today. But everything is set. Set it and forget it. I did do a little bit of vinyl on the trim tabs just to give it a little bit of flair there. The other side just says Super Sport, no big deal. So, what we're going to do, I'm going to turn this off, actually. So, it looks pretty good from a distance. Not my favorite paint job. It just is so hard to paint when it's 30 degrees out, and you've got a garage full of boats, and your other garage isn't heated, and it was very difficult to do. But she did turn out nice. The clear coat turned out nice. The paint could have done a better job, but it's okay. Not too bad. So what we're going to do, we're going to turn off the camera, and I'm going to get the assembly set up for the direct cable throttle setup. Be right back. Now, what I use on every single boat is a ZippKits direct throttle drive. Okay? Love these things. I always order the 18-inch one. That way I can just cut it down to size, whatever I need to do. And I think the last build that we did, I didn't have, it was out of the old cracker box. So it wasn't a full-on brand new setup. So what we're going to need a servo. There's one. Okay. And some servo horns. Now, every single gas boat I own has one of these in it. 2 things I would change. One, you can see this covering that this is from ZippKits, the only one I've ever used. If somebody else makes one, I don't even know. I've never seen a direct throttle drive, throttle control for a gas boat. So maybe this is a ZippKits invention. Joe, if you're watching, let me know. The thing I don't like, there's 2 things I don't like. One is this will rust.
Garbage day! Huh? No!
It gets rust on it. Now they do give you this nice little sheath, you know, and you can do that. I showed you in the last video, I actually put water cooling line on it because I had lost the sheath, basically. Or what you can do, take some clear coat and just shoot it with some clear coat, keep it from rusting. It's not going to hurt anything. It's not going to rust through and blow up or anything like that. But yeah, it's one thing. It's kind of annoying. Now, the biggest thing that's annoying, we take our servo horns. Usually, your servos will come with all of this jazz here, okay? You're going to want this one, the little round standard crapola, been around for 1,000 years thing. Okay, we stick that on the servo. It does not matter if it's centered. All right, take a Phillips, and we put this on. I'll show you. This is the thing I would change. So maybe it's just servos I use. I don't know if you can see that or not, but the servo stick, the screw sticks up a little bit above the head. Okay. Then we take. You've got the direct throttle drive, little coupler, 4 screws and a set screw. Okay, put that right there. Now, the thing I don't like is, look at that. All right, so what I do, you have 2 choices here, because this will not sit flush against the servo. So what I do is I take this, I put it in my drill press, or you can just take a normal drill with a drill bit and kind of pilot hole this a little bit. Just give it a little bit of a convex hole. Or you can grind your screw down. The problem with grinding the screw down is it's a real bitch to get the screw out after the fact.
Nightmare.
So what I do is I just put a little divot in that aluminum piece. So what I do, this is not necessary, but again, with my builds, I always thread lock everything. I just have it. Just have it. Unless it's a tiny set screw, then I don't. Alright, so I'm going to take us over to the drill press. I'm going to put a little divot in here. Be right back. We're back. So now you can see, with a very dull drill bit, I should have used a better one, I just put a little bit of a concave in there. And now it sits nice and flush. Take yourself. Now, here's the trick. You want to line this up so you've got 4 holes, which is right there, on your horn, your servo horn. The screws aren't the best in the world. They're just tiny little, they're just tiny little screws. And they're that type of screw that you have to search for like 6 years, the right screwdriver that fits it. But what you want to do is make it so it's nice and even. You want to see 4 holes on each side. Right there. Okay, now, you do not have to put in all 4 screws. There's very, very little torsion on this. You can just put in 2. You'd be fine. Not a big deal. Okay. But the trick of it is you want to make sure it's even and the spread is proper. You don't want it rotating in like a oblong type of situation. So I'm only going to put 2 screws in for now. That's fine. Okay, so that's what I would change. Make it so this doesn't rust. And again, like I said, it's not going to rust to the point where it's going to break the bank or anything like that. But yeah, it's still ugly. And you can use this covering, but it's better to conformal coat it if you can. And put a little bit of a concave on there so it fits against the servo just right. Okay. I did just throw my set screw over there, so let me find that, and we'll be right back. So I'm actually glad that happened. I had a dumbass attack because, like I said, it's been a really long week.
Of all the slammocky blackguards.
So what I did was I put all those bolts in my hand, nuts in my hand, whatever they were, and I threw them over there, and one of those itty-bitty ones was the set screw. It's gone. That's okay. So I've done this before with these. You can actually take that annoying little set screw out that strips really easily and just put it is metric. And you can just put a real bolt in there, and as you can see, it will clear the rotation. So that works out pretty good. Then the next piece you've got is the coupler. So you can see on the coupler there's 2 set screws, which you can also replace with these. The set screws do strip out easy. Anything that's that tiny strips out pretty easy. The big end goes on the engine, the little end goes on the cable. Okay, very, very straightforward. All right, and that's really all we've got to do. Now, if you want to cut the screw down, which I'm not going to, you can, but it is not necessary. All right, so that's the first thing we're going to set up. Now, unfortunately, I do not have a spare receiver, and I do not want to pull a receiver out of one of my other boats to make this video.
I've wondered sometimes if ever I'd meet a more unscrupulous blackguard than myself. And I have.
I'm sorry. I'm going to order a couple new ones, or extras. But other than that, we'll just do the math. It's very, very simple. So let me grab the boat. We'll pop it back up here. All right. There we go. So a couple different ways you can do this. Now, how I do my throttles is I take the boot, the rubber boot. Okay, you saw this in the Cracker Box video. This is my own 3D printed radio box. If you want it, I will gladly email you the STL. Just shoot my emails at the bottom of the description. I will send it to you. Not a big deal at all. Okay. And I went through this in detail in the Cracker Box build series that we did. I used silicone, white Gorilla Glue, or clear preferably, to adhere this to. You can actually see maybe the white lines in here, but it works really, really, really well using that. So you can see servo is going to fit right there. It lines up perfectly with this. So what I do with mine is I use a boot. I put the boot through there. I put a little CA glue on this side here and let it cure, or use accelerator. And then I cut, not the entire tip, just a little bit of the tip off. It really helps with getting this through. Now, the other thing that you can see, 18 inches is way too long for this. That's fine. I don't care. Better too much than too little. So, and then the other thing I do with my boots, I have another boot back here on the rudder linkage. I shoot a little bit of shaft grease in there, the same grease that we use on our prop shafts. It just helps everything go fluid through there. But this, you can see, keeps a nice watertight seal. Okay? And then I set this through here, and it does not matter how you, this servo does not need to be centered, because we're going to align this servo on the throttle side, not the servo side. Okay? So we're just going to make sure that's nice and torqued, because we're never probably taking it off again unless servo dies. Now, the other thing that I do on my servos, there's a cap that goes over this. The other thing I do on my servos is I use conformal coat, and that is what obviously waterproofs them again. I went over that in the other video too, so we're not going to do that again. So then what you want to do is you want to mark where this is going to go to. Now, I don't like a lot of slack in mine, but what we're going to do, yeah, we'll just probably do it this way. We're going to cut it right to there. It's going to be plenty. Let's see here. Move it back a little bit. You can see if you slide this on, this is our coupler. All right, the least amount of slack you've got, the better. You can have some. It's not going to hurt anything. Okay. And then I'm going to mark. No, I'm not, because I don't have a marker. Anyway, I will go ahead and cut this. Now, you can cut this one of two ways. If you have a side cutter that's good, mine are not. Mine have been beat to death. Go ahead and cut it. Make sure you give yourself a little bit of room, because you're going to cut up to here, and right between these two. Okay? Or you can use your Dremel, which is probably what I'm going to use. So, let's just do it real quick. Usually I use a cutter, but the reason I say use a new one is if you use an old one, there's a really good chance that you're going to burr it up if it's old. So I'm going to mark it right there, and I'm going to give it at least 1/4 of an inch above that. Again, better too much than too little. All right, here we go. Okay, so that's a lot of extra cable. You can see it fits real well. And then we need to open that up. All right, so open this one up so it fits. Now, in the cracker video, you saw me fit this and how I set it. And when we go do the run video, I'm going to do that for you again. But for today, since I don't have a receiver, I'm not going to do that. Okay. Very simple. Make it good and tight. Now, if this throttle, this servo was at neutral position, but I'm going to show you how to set this when we do the run video, so that might be Tuesday. We'll see what happens. Okay. This isn't really setting the throttle. This is just hooking it up. Just because I don't have a receiver, I really apologize. I thought I did. I've only got 8,000 RC vehicles. Now, the other thing we do is we take out the throttle screw. You never use a throttle screw, throttle set, idle set screw on a boat engine.
So what?
So what? So let's dance.
Never. Off with you. Okay? Cool. So that is really it. Now we can tighten that up. Like we can say, all right, we don't like how much room that has. We can rotate this around and pull it out, give us a little bit more distance, whatever you want to do. Okay? Easy, easy, easy. So, next thing we're going to do is our steering linkage. All right? So there's a 440 rod. Let me grab a drill. Using the hardware kit from ZippKits, they already supply you with the ball link. All right? So, it's for a 440 rod, in this case. You'll see this rod, one end of it's threaded, one end of it's not. The threaded end is going to go on the servo. So what we're going to do, this is what I do. You don't have to do it this way. I'm sure there's simpler ways to do it, but I put the threaded rod, the end without the thread, in the drill. And I hold onto this. Because we don't adjust it from the servo side. All right? We adjust it from the rudder side. Very, very simple. The other thing we do, I already centered this with a servo tester. Okay? Servo tester I use, just type in on Amazon servo tester. This one sucks, but it works. I don't love it, but it's what I got. So what we're going to do is we're going to attach the linkage just like that. This is a omnidirectional ball joint, kind of like your hip, like a little baby hip replacement. Okay. And then here's another trick. The servos I use are 20 kilogram waterproof servos. I put a link. I'll put another link in this description too. All right. So what you can see here is if we put the servo in, you can see that the linkages can go on the inside of the arm. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that screw. If it doesn't fit in your servo arm, the screw that comes with this ball link, force it. This arm is aluminum. It's not, it'll force through real good. So we take a little bit of thread lock. Alright. Oh, wrong one. Alright, so we're going to thread this in. But you can just use thread lock on this because, I mean, you can put the bolt on, the nut on the end if you want to, but you don't have to. Just put some thread lock on there, tighten it up, and it's forever. It's not going to rattle loose because this is an omnidirectional ball. Alright. Now you can see how I have this set. Another rubber boot. Same principle. Put a little bit of a grease in there for a little bit of lube, okay? I'm going to just put a little bit of an arc on this right at the end because we're going to be cutting it off anyway. And I'm going to slide that through the boot. Now this part can be a bit tricky. Pull it back with your fingers. There we go. Cool. Alright, so now I'll zoom in and you can see this from the rudder side. We're going to take this set screw out. It's coming off. Okay. Take it out or loosen it all the way up. Okay. And just set it through. Then we're going to slide our servo in like that. And that is it. We're going to put the servo back to center. Now, I would be using the radio at this point, but since we don't have a radio, I would turn the radio on with the receiver in there. I would put it at 0 trim, so it's totally perfect. And then I would just set this to I and just tighten her down. No big deal. Okay. Good. All right. Alright, so then at this point there you would cut this off. Leave yourself a 1/4 inch or so. Obviously that still needs tightened, that's okay. I got to redo this anyway because I don't have a receiver in here, alright? But leave yourself a little bit of room in the back, alright? Then the next thing we're going to do is we put on our caps, our servo caps. Now again, this is my box. This is not the wooden box that comes with the kit as far as the radio goes. My batteries, the ones that I use for my 3D printed box, slide in like this. Perfect, okay. And then my receiver goes in here. This is for my radio tube, for my receiver tube that comes up. I just use a piece of fuel line or water line. Easy peasy, okay? Now, with this again, what you can do, which I should have done, I omitted. We're going to take this back out. If you want to use the plastic that came with it, just measure it out. I usually push that bellows all the way back and bring it to right about there and just cut it off. Not rocket science. Ain't the space shuttle. Just do it. Alright? And it gives it a much better look. Much classier look, obviously, than nothing at all. And then we'll go ahead and tighten that down. Again, I have to redo all this, so I'm not getting anal with it. So, and then we can pull our boot back up. Our boot does have grease in it. I am a firm believer of loading these boots up with grease before you do a build. It keeps them from drying out. If anybody watching has ever bought a boat off of eBay to restore or something to that nature, you will always find that these boots are cracked and dried and all shitty. Yeah, no, you don't want to mess with that. If you put some WD-40s, okay, but realistically just squirt them full of grease. I use a little bit of a syringe. I buy these syringes off Amazon, little tiny ones, and I take my grease gun and I fill it up and I squirt them in, and that grease will stay there probably as long as the boat's alive. Everybody's happy. Keeps the rubber lubricated, keeps it from drying out, makes assembly much easier. I seriously advise you doing that. Okay, so that is really it. I will go over setting the receiver and doing a radio setup, hopefully in a couple days.
Well, we're waiting.
Maybe, we'll see. All our hardware is set. Everything's good. We did do, that needs tightened. We did do our water lines. I used the ports that come with the boots and the kit. I use those for running my water line through. Works really well. We need to slap a belt on there. We need to lube the shaft. We need to balance the prop. We need to do all that stuff. But for the most part, she's ready to rock. Okay, so I could have this boat in the water in a few minutes, half an hour. So the other thing we're going to do before we do run this is we're going to go over the setup of this boat, and I will go by the manual on that.
Must be done legal-like and honest.
Stick to ways you're familiar with.
Because this boat is very finicky. It's very light. It runs in the straights amazing, but if you don't set it up properly, it will turn like a bag of ass. It does not turn well. It'll skip. It does all sorts of crazy stuff if you don't set it up properly. So I might even talk to Joe a little bit, because this is my third Super Sport that I've built. I'll talk to Joe again anyway, because it's probably going to be at least 2 days if I can run it. It might be next spring. We'll see what happens. But I'll talk to Joe and see what he recommends. But I know we have to dive down the starboard side trims, and we have to do all sorts of stuff. Very fast boat. Very fun. Very easy to build, but it takes a little bit of delicacy to set up. It really does. So again, like I said, do I think this is easier than a cracker box build for a first build? Probably. I mean, crackers are easy, but this is a very easy boat, especially if you subtract this piece right here. If you guys remember, I put in. But as far as setup and running and handling and driving, this is more advanced than a cracker is, in my opinion. And I think because our Uncle Joe at ZippKits sent us a V-Box kit, I think we're going to build that next on the channel. It'll be a speed build, though, maybe 2 or 3 videos, because we already built the A-Box, which is the Nintendo cracker, if you guys remember. I think we're going to go ahead and do the V-Box just because it's here. I don't have to wait on it. I've had a lot of requests for doing a rigger. I would really like to do a gas rigger, but I only want to do the ZippKits one. I've built the ML Boatworks rigger. I have not built the Blazer. I built a couple ZippKits gas riggers, and there was another one I had. I can't even remember who it was, but I built a lot of electric riggers, probably 20. But I'd really prefer to do a gas, but whatever. I had an accident the other day when I was rearranging stuff, and I dropped one of my ML Boatworks electric riggers that I ran, and I destroyed it. Fucked up the transom really bad. So I'm going to have to take the guts out. It's a 6S. I'm going to have to take the guts out and build another electric rigger, because I do like my electric riggers. I run them a few times a year. It might be the 30 from ZippKits. We'll see what happens. I'm not sure. But I've been getting a lot of requests for a hydroplane and a lot of requests for a rigger. So that we might throw the V-Box in there real quick, because it's going to be a fast build. And I'll just hold it as a spare hull. But we have to do a rigger for everybody. So until the next time, kids, I know that was very brief, very quick. I didn't go over the switch. Let me go over the switch. This is what most of you will buy. This comes with most hardware sets from boats. We've got the switch, which is your typical little mechanical switch. And you've got this apparatus, okay? So how this works is you unscrew that. This is the framework, and you got this little collet that goes over the switch end, okay? This bit here screws into this side of the box. This bit here goes on the inside of the box, and you thread those together. Okay? Until it stops. I believe that's an 8mm, maybe a 9. Okay? Once that's seated in, you're going to have a little bit of a gap because your radio box wall is there. Then you're going to slide this in, and this bar, this little switch jobby, goes in to here, that little collet that goes around the switch, and that enables you to do that. And it is reasonably watertight. It really is. They work well. The problem is these switches aren't waterproof. So if you do get a little bit of water in your radio box, this thing will corrode by the time you wake up the next morning, and that's how the demise of my other cracker box that was the Nintendo died. The switch locked on, or locked off. It just had corrosion on it, and it smashed, 50 miles an hour into the rocks. Not a good day. So I don't use these anymore. I use these waterproof ones, and it's very straightforward how to put those in. I will put a link in the description for that too. But for those of you that use the old school, these work really well. I mean, this mount is stellar. The switch is a bag of ass. I hate them. They're not waterproof. Why put it in a boat? I'm sorry. I just don't get it. So, until next time, kids, keep dry side up. Bye.
Down.